Well, welcome to King County Recovery Conversations. My name is Carolyn Presnell, and I am your podcast host today. And today I am here with my friend Joe. Joe, welcome.
Yeah, thank you, Carolyn.
Yeah, well, we're gonna just get right into it.
Hey, everybody.
I'm excited to learn more about you and why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself and how you come to be a part of this recovery community.
Well, I guess I could tell you a little bit about my journey, but
I'd love to hear it.
I've been making better choices for almost 15 years now. Yay!
Yeah, I'm with you, buddy.
Yeah,
I'm with
what's
you.
up?
I'm just
What's
coming up.
up?
I just had 9, so
Really?
yeah, I'm
Great.
doing the ride with you.
Yeah, keep going.
Nice taillights, buddy.
It's like, but today is beautiful.
Yeah.
We should celebrate that as well. So, just a little bit about me. I kind of bounced around as a kid, started playing guitar, found myself in a couple bands, found myself out from the East Coast in Florida to San Francisco, and I started a band there and started to make records and tour around the world. And I started, really partying pretty good. And, and it was... and then I moved up to Seattle in 99. And this is Seattle community is where I got sober.
Okay. Where are you from?
God, I'm all over the place, but I lived more of my life in California than I did now it's been more in Washington than anywhere else.
Yeah.
So I'm going to consider myself a Washingtonian.
Listen,
because that's
I'm going to indoctrinate you because I am officially a Washingtonian. And I'm glad to have you.
Okay, thank you. I'm happy to be a part of this community. So I bounced around in music led me a lot of places, and it still does. But that's not really the thing that I'm most proud about in my life. I'm most proud about my sobriety, and my journey into that was it was crazy. Like everybody, it's like, I was thinking about you could replace anybody in this seat and they would have an amazing story to tell you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? About
do.
Their journey. How did you get here? Whoa, that's crazy. Your journey's just to sit here
all the things that lead us to this moment.
Wow, that's probably pretty incredible.
Yeah.
And so I want to hear about yours too, because this isn't about, and it's really not about either of us. It's about everyone, and whether you're early in your journey, you got a couple years, couple weeks under your belt, it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? Everybody kind of has this interesting story to tell, but
yeah, you're right. And it's not a linear path. I mean, I don't know what it took for you to, to be occupying the seat that you're sitting in, but I know that, I had several twists and turns and very much, the recovery journey. I had to find out what it was that I didn't want before I could really kind of pursue what it was that I did, like what I desired in the recovery journey. So tell me a little bit about kind of the early days of your path and using and what led you to come sit in the seat with me today.
Well, about using? Yeah.
Well, just kind of the journey itself.
Oh, God, I started smoking grass at 14 years old,
Sure.
and I started smoking pot before I could drive. I was so into it, you know, and then it led to other stuff and just being, the village idiot around the world, but, I'm not no one's proud of their
Nope.
their moments they didn't act right, but I have, everyone has a journey. I have one, and this was mine, and everyone's gonna look different, but there'll be, and I help people with music these days, making records and things like that. But my journey in music isn't the same as their journey, and just like in recovery, this is what I can kind of align it to, and speak about like our journeys aren't going to be the same, but they're gonna follow certain trajectories. You know what I mean? They're gonna be sort of in in the area code together,
Yeah.
but not exactly on the same streets.
So tell me this, Joe. Who was there anyone who was kind of instrumental and maybe helping you along to say, hey, Joe, maybe you want to change the direction of your life, or was there anything monumental that kind of happened that led you to think, hey, I need to turn this around?
Yeah, well, maybe the second one, because the first one, no one ever said that to me.
Sure.
Yeah, no one ever said it got said in different ways, and no one ever actually said those kind of words.
Listen, I
But
partied
you know
with
what I
people
mean?
who partied like me, so nobody
Yeah.
was really telling me, hey, Carolyn, you should knock that off.
Yeah,
So-
it's like that idea of like standing outside and like a leaf falls on your head, right? And like, yeah. Next thing is like a little pebble drops on your head. Yeah. Ooh. Next thing a branch, then a brick, and then a 2-ton car, and finally hits you, and you're like,
Maybe I shouldn't be standing
maybe I
beneath
should
this
do
tree.
something
Yeah.
different
Yeah, yeah.
because this is not working for me. And it got to a point where like I couldn't, I wasn't one of those people that like had to lose everything, but I was messed up.
Yeah.
And it's really like what those, come to find out, like these kind of stories that I keep telling myself, over and over, they get repeated and they become real. When, I start to unwind it in recovery, it's like, hey, that was bullshit. I was like holding on to this piece of bullshit and making a real story out of this. And my sponsor at the time is like, yo, that wasn't even your resentment. Why are you adopting this resentment?
Right.
That wasn't yours in the first place. And then you made it into something that was, he didn't say those exact words, but, like after a while, you can start to untangle some of these things. And it's like, that whole thing was bullshit. Why was, and then, and I had a lot of fear, just like a lot of people going into like asking for help. Right. Yeah. Like I didn't know who to turn to. It's like, I looked up like on the internet, like, Alcoholics Anonymous, or no, I wasn't really, I don't know, other Narcotics Anonymous and things like that. And like, I didn't really understand this world. It's like, well, what are my friends are going to think? What was like, and I was so worried about what other people would think about like me making better decisions for myself. And it come to find out, like, I don't care what other people think. This ain't about them. It's about how I feel inside, and about like, just to be okay inside.
Yeah.
We do a lot of things in life just to feel okay.
Well, and it's that thing too, is then we're making those choices, because I had a similar experience in my journey, and I was, I think, remarkably surprised at how many people really understood that I was going through something and that something needed to shift. So there was significantly more support in the community around it than I had anticipated. And the other piece is finding out that the folks that really cared about me wanted to see me as the best version. And there's definitely some of those folks that when you're doing the ride, they're not that interested in you changing who you are, because it means they have to change who they are too. And so I think it's remarkably courageous, anybody who makes the move, particularly if they are, well ensconced in a community that kind of relies on them loaded.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. I had a girlfriend at the time, and it was, from me using to me getting sober, and it didn't work out because she liked the messed up Joe.
Sure.
That she could do whatever, you know what I mean, or whatever. Like,
Gotten used to life being the way it was.
way more than because then I started to go to meetings and have this other like group of friends, and that, you know what I mean. Those didn't line up anymore for us, and and that's what it for me. It took to kind of to recalibrate some of the people I would hang out with and the places I would go and spend time in,
Yeah.
But I got sober at a guitar shop. They had a meeting in a guitar store, right?
Nice.
Right down the street. I'm not going to name it or anything like that, but
Yeah.
like there was this, and I felt, because I'm, I play music and I felt comfortable.
I was just going to say it was a little bit of kismet.
Yeah, and I felt comfortable, and that's where I met my sponsor at that meeting. He my sponsor, and everybody has a different story about that, but my sponsor was he wouldn't shut up, right? He wore me down, and I was just like, okay. Not trying to talk me into anything, because these are my choices, right? And that's what I chose. But he is it, those kind of people that and I feel like I'm doing it a little bit right now, but that like to talk, But he really liked to talk, and it just about not about recovery, about I don't know, he was into construction and remodeling and stuff, and stuff that I and just call it real life. That guy I wouldn't have never chose him as a buddy to hang out with. You know what I mean? But
I
then
do.
but then now I still have a relationship with him that he's on my favorites on my phone, and we talk at least once or twice every couple of weeks, and just to check in. How you doing, man? And so anyways, he's not my sponsor anymore, but he was for a long time.
Yeah. What was the in sponsorship? I'm curious about this. Is that level of guidance and support, kind of in the early days? Because I heard a little bit of what you're saying. I found it. I had a lot of people in meetings that kind of pulled my coattails a little bit. They were fascinated, by me, and I was pretty feral when I first came in the rooms. It was I said things like, "Hi, my name is Carolyn, and I'm an addict, and none of you appear to have an original thought. You seem to be like cattle. Thanks for letting me share." I mean, it was that level of feral when I arrived, and they were so entertained, and I couldn't talk to people about anything other than the war story, because it's all I had. It's I heard people talk about their families and their educations and having drank their marriages, and but I didn't have those kinds of stories. All I had was war tales, right. And I think that there was something really precious about being able to listen to someone else who had something else to say besides what was going on in the street or what was going on in the bar. And so I wonder for you, what were some of the kind of early days and the conversations that you were having with folks that really sparked your interest about maybe being sober, aside from just, not using?
Well, I don't know, I'm just thinking about it. There's never one of those it was that one thing that just kind of exploded. It just, for me, it's I'd done a lot of other stuff. Sure. And I wanted to do something different.
Yeah.
And I can sort of relate this to smoking, because I used to be a smoker. I loved smoking cigarettes and stuff like that. But I just one day just made a different choice, right? And one of the things is like, I didn't want to be a slave to it anymore. People are like, how did you quit smoking? Like, I didn't quit smoking. I just had a different relationship with it. Like, I never wanted to be a slave to that anymore.
Yeah.
You know, like I had to have like, all right, I got like 4 cigarettes and that'll get me through this. And you know what I mean? It was just like with, you know, whatever, pick your favorite substance, and it would be like that. Like, well, this I got 2 for tonight, and then 2 in the morning. Then I'm gonna have to run up to the store and grab some more.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I do.
And then just like planning my friggin' life around how many cigarettes are in my pack, and just like, I didn't want to be a slave to this, and it was really bad. And like, here's the other thing is like, I didn't know how not to be a slave to this anymore, because it's sneaky, it's clever, it's cunning, and it's, you know, say in the book and like all these kind of other things about like, it's really just like, it's fun, and then boom, you got a problem, you know. And it's like, I heard something really hilarious recently, and it was like, don't ever think that you don't have something to offer. You could be an example.
100%. I've absolutely been her. What Not to Do.
Yes.
By Carolyn Presnell. Yeah, absolutely. I really resonate with what you were talking about, and just the quitting smoking example is a prime one. You know, because I've been a non-smoker for about 9 years. I actually quit cigarettes before I quit drugs. It's because cigarettes are harder to get into jail. But I had this thing where when I came home, I thought I had the opportunity to smoke. And anytime I was free, I was always smoking. It's like, even if I'm not doing drugs or I'm not drinking, I'm smoking. And it was that thing about having all of the places of my life where cigarettes occupy. And it was really similar to drugs, is that like I couldn't eat dinner with people without thinking about smoking. I couldn't plan trips or any of that, like flights, any of that stuff, without being a part of the occupation. And what I realized, you know, in my experience was that it robbed me of intimacy with people. It occupied spaces where relationship could be. And I thought, what would it look like to feel a feeling without trying to alter it ever? Frustration or hunger or boredom or sleep or baths, whatever it was, it all got occupied by, you know, it's like by substances in one form or another. And I wonder for you, you know, could you share about some of the things that maybe got freed up as a result of, you know, quitting using?
Well, I could occupy my time better. Like, I was a better management of time, you know, like, but, you know, I had to tell you this story. I recently was, you know, talking with my wife about, you know, man, I need to manage my time better. I need to manage time better. Like, and I thought about like that idea, and I was like, you ain't gonna time is just fine, right? You ain't managing shit. What you need to manage, Joe, is yourself and not time. Time is just fine. It's just gonna do its thing, right? Perfectly, without effort. You know, it does its thing. You need to manage yourself. And when, you know, and then in recovery, that's what like, so the fear was a little bit for me, and like, you know, what would other people think? But then like, the other part in the back of my mind was like, what am I going to think? Because I always thought of like getting high and, you know, carrying on and doing all this stuff. Like, what are some other thoughts that I might want to occupy my space with? And
what does that look like?
well, that's a good question. I mean, those, you know, they unfold all the time. You know, like if you read like a book, and I'm into like, you know, different things like spirituality and you know, and different modalities and things like that. But if you go, for me, I'd go back and I'd read, like, sometimes just open a random page and read it, come back a year later and read the same page. It means something totally different, or it's unfolded in my life. I've kind of met my life to understand things in different ways.
Yeah.
So, but now I just kind of feel all over the place and about this conversation, but it's,
Yeah.
Carolyn, what made you just want to change your life around, or like have different options in your life?
I mean, I think for me it was similar to you, is that I kind of ran out of, I wanted to be living differently, but I mean, truthfully, I think it was consequences. I really ran up against consequences, and it was taking me places that I didn't want to go. And even that wouldn't have been okay, but I was a mom and I had kids. And so the consequences weren't just affecting me, they were affecting people that I cared about. And as a person who had run around on the planet mostly thinking of herself, it came to be that I thought really that these people I had invited to the planet, in whatever fashion I invited them, deserved to have somebody that was more present than I was. And I really, I came from people who struggled with substance use and alcoholism, and I knew how it felt to be a kid who had a parent that was loaded, and I just thought I really I want something better for my own. But that didn't give me the power to do it. It was King County intervention. Interestingly enough, was kind of the
Go
stuff.
King County.
I mean, source will come in the
what's
form
up?
of SPD, and they did for me, and so
Right.
it was really helpful.
Wow.
And this time in my journey, I got lots of sober dates. I had long-term sobriety and drank again, and then everything in between. But something that you said, which was pretty significant for me this time around, is that I began to kind of pursue the spiritual paths. I began to seek with curiosity, the realm that had saved my life, because it wasn't by merit or my own power that I had managed to not die.
Right.
And so, I was curious about that. It was like, well, what is this thing that, keeps the breath of life in me? And what would my life look like if I went in pursuit of that? And so I began to explore all the realms of the spirit,
Right.
and so, yeah, I'm fascinated by that.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, is it the bulb that burns, or is it the electricity that powers the bulb? These kind of things, like the body is like, it takes a lot of tending to, like, God, I feel like I'm like, oh, he's doing like, all right, I'm gotta make food, I'm hungry, like, oh, we better wash the dishes, or like, like all these time, just like almost like this, like walking slave to the body just to take care of it.
Yeah.
And but we forget about taking care of our minds, and that's the place that, like, it's so crazy all the time, and I have meditation practice now, and kind of be able to get quiet after in the mornings and at night and things like that. But I feel like that I've had so many conclusions about life, right? And about how things are. So it's like that. It must be like this. Here's a conclusion. I'll just stack that on top of another thing, and stack another conclusion on top of another conclusion that weren't really like these house of conclusions that I've built up in my mind. They say we're like, in life, we're like the sum of our learned experiences, right? Like all the experiences that Carolyn's had led you to this place, right? And then led you to this. But like for me, I feel like sometimes like, all the experiences I've had in life have led me here, but then some of them are based on weird conclusions about stuff. And, just sort of like, can you just stop with the conclusions, Joe? Everything doesn't have to have a conclusion to it, right? How about it's like, maybe I can have a different response to something. Maybe there's a different outcome when I have a different,
Yeah.
response to things. And once again, I sort of feel like I'm just less, like sometimes days, there's like a buoyancy in life, right?
I do.
And, like sometimes you walking down the street, you got a spring in your step. You don't even feel like you're almost like floating. Other days you're like, like dragging. Like
you have to
it's
work a
hard.
little harder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just like, wow, really feel like instead of, a boat, I feel like an anchor today, or something like that, but like, it feels like, the more I'm sobered, like the less I feel, and I'm not saying it doesn't ever happen, but I feel more like I can navigate the waters a little better than just like a little wave hitting and the boat just capsizes.
Yeah.
And I think a little of this is tied into, life's conclusions, and other is tied into just like rest, break, a different response. I don't always have to have a response to someone that says something.
I understand that. I at least I think I do. I have a relationship with that. I think about it in terms of, when I was working with my own sponsor and doing the work, specifically like writing inventories or those kinds of things, and being in the process is like not doing the writing to just get it done, because it wasn't performative. It wasn't for them. It was for me. But then being able to do it no matter how I felt is that like when I'm feeling good, I'm less inclined to do the writing because I'm not interested in pulling up some stuff that doesn't make me feel good and doing it anyways, or doing it when I was, feeling tired or less than interested or pressed for time. Is that like the consistency of showing up for a thing over and over again, no matter how I felt about it, changed how I approached any given task, because I thought like, if someone dies, I'm supposed to be sad. That's the response. I have like these pre-programmed kind of things, reactions to life. And by consistently showing up and doing, and I hate the language, the right thing, but the thing that I am intuitively called to do, the quiet voice, listening to that more frequently, just that level of consistency led me to have different experiences and relationships with things that I had always felt the same way about. And so kind of what I was hearing you say was this idea of just not being, we get to be in the wonder of life. Here's one of those ones too, is that like you spill a cup of coffee across the counter and all across the floor. And most people, what do they say the moment that they do that? It's going to be a bad day. It's going to be a bad day. And instead it's that like, my response to it today is like, of course I don't want to spill coffee, but it's that like, I am called to be more attentive. It's like, oh, today is a day to be more attentive to what's going on. It's like, slow it down just a little bit and pay attention to what's going on. And instead of having a bad day, I have a day full of intention and attention.
Mm-hmm. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah. So you could have a different look on that. Like, we've got this coffee machine at home, right?
Yeah.
And it's pretty cool, but you have to fill up the container with water, right?
Yes.
And it's a espresso and da 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 and this and that, but it's like it's not plumbed. It's you have to like there's a little container of water that goes in the back of it, and you got to fill it up, right? And I kid you not, like it seems like I don't know. It seems like every time I go up there, like put a thing of coffee in and get the cup going, and it's like. Boop, and then the light will start blinking, telling me it's out of water. And then it's like, you know what? It's my lucky day today. And I go like, you know what I mean? I have to dump it out and go get another thing of water and then dump out the coffee because it's no good. You can't like pour water back through that little puck that you ground up and stuff. And then instead of like what you're saying, like and like spill something on the counter or something like that, like. It's my lucky day.
That's right.
How cool is this? Like, why does things sometimes that we think of like it's so binary, like it's so one or a zero. That's what it is. It's good or bad, or like everything's binary. It's like
designed
why does it ever have to be binary? Like why can't it just not be binary? Here?
Well, I'm not sure, but I think that being in recovery and kind of being on the path and like following some directions, that was probably pretty key for me, is that I had to like set my own stuff aside and then just be willing to follow along. And there were plenty of things that I was asked to do that they seemed absurd. I didn't understand what that had to do with me and my drinking and my drug problem. But this idea, in moving through the work is that I found that it turned out it's not all about me. The world is not aligned in such a way that it's trying to inconvenience me. And it's, that life on life's terms things. Well, I really appreciate that you and I got a little bit of an opportunity to get to know each other. Is there anything that you want to close with as we end this conversation?
Yes, and I will just there's one small thing that sometimes. It's better to wear slippers than try to carpet the rest of the world.
That's it. High five.
Right, up top.
Yeah.
Right.
Thanks so much.
So nice meeting you, and thank you so much for having me on your show today.
Yeah. Thanks again.
All right.
Thank you so much for joining us today, and we'd love to thank the King County Recovery Coalition for making this possible, as well as Orbit Studios. Thanks. Have a great day.
Yeah. See ya. That was rad.
Yay!
Yay!
Now we're
What's up?
Now